You're listening to the Renegade Blitz. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. And subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app.
Renegade Blitz, our fourth year. Training camp, it's gone so fast, and we're finally back, and we should be back with you for the rest of the regular season here as the Pittsburgh Steelers are back in Latrobe getting ready for another season of training camp with Chris Ward. I'm Tyler Polk. Chris, it's been a big start to this entire training camp for the Steelers. We'll also have Brandon Walker coming on shortly. He's out in Chicago for a family reunion, so he's trying to get himself situated with that. And Chris, so far for the first 2 days of training camp, it's been good to see the Steelers back, but of course the big thing is that Kenny Pickett making some strides. That's the one thing that I think a lot of the Steelers' success comes through in, especially today in day 2 of training camp as we're recording this on the second day. He had some good moments with new Steeler Allen Robinson.
Yeah, it was, supposedly Allen Robinson had a really good day today. I haven't got a chance to read the reports yet, but just everything that I've read on Twitter. I saw yesterday Kenny Pickett had a deep pass to Anthony McFarland Jr., and today he had one, a deep one to Calvin Austin III, who he had a rough practice according to reports yesterday. He had a couple drops, but a big catch today. I think it was like for 46 yards I read. But yeah, the Holcomb, the linebacker, was on him too on the plays. I saw people comment on that. That's not a good matchup to have with Calvin Austin III. But yeah, still the early portions. It's like I asked you before we came on. I asked how hot it is in the Pittsburgh area. I know St. Vincent College, they were all saying it's like extremely humid. I know it's humid out here too. But tough working conditions. Deontay Johnson, I think, Deontay Johnson had to leave practice for a heat related, like exhaustion and stuff, and DeMarvin Leal was the other one, and I think Connor Hayward was. So those 3 players. It's brutal out there right now. That was a long practice.
Yeah, it was a long practice. I'm still in the regular part of Pittsburgh, not in Latrobe, but I was down walking around the East Liberty area, and I took some solid bits. I went out and I ate in a restaurant, and then I walked across the bridge in Shadyside, and I tried to get a water in one of the store where I had to buy lottery tickets for the Mega Millions because we're all trying to get rich here. And I tried to get a water. I'm like, man, it's hot. I mean, sweat coming off my back. It was insane out there on how hot it was. Though, granted, I'm the one person in the world that wears all black in near 100 temperatures. But yeah,
that's what Tomlin does. But he likes it. He said after the practice, he likes the weather. He's how coaches are. They're kind of a little crazy sometimes. But he said he likes the uncomfortable part of it, and that's the job of a head coach. He wants his players to face adversity, and that's what training camp is all about. Because that's going to make those guys better. Deep in the season when in the fourth quarter and they have to dig deep.
Yeah, the Steelers are one of 3 teams that go away from their regular training facility for training camp. So that's one of the things they expected. Of course, all the players coming in a few days ago, and you seen some people were involved in snack duty. Other people were bringing Tempur-Pedic mattresses, and of course, some caught Ubers to get to Latrobe, which for me, as someone that's actually driven out to Latrobe not for football reasons. I had to cover basketball games out there. Man, you're taking an Uber out there.
That's a lot. I've done it once actually from Pittsburgh to Latrobe, and this was a few years ago. They usually charge about how long it takes to get there, so I think what's like almost an hour. So I think when I went it was like probably $50, but I don't know what the Ubers has gone up, recently over the last couple of years. So I don't know Broderick Jones, had to take an Uber from the airport, so I'm sure it was a good amount, but his rookie deal, I'm sure covered it.
Yeah, and that's another thing we want to talk about with Broderick Jones. Of course, he wasn't given the starting job out of camp. It still belongs to former 4th rounder Dan Moore Jr. So, of course, the Steelers, as Omar Khan said, they want to make him work for it. And I like the way that Moore had it with his headspace. Of course, usually most guys, they they get affected by their spot, they kind of get a little flippant. But he seemed to have a good headspace about that.
Yeah, Dan Moore, like, since Broderick Jones was drafted and everything, he's been a real, team player. Not, he's said all the right things really, and like they said, Tomlin and Omar Khan said that Broderick Jones is going to have to earn that spot. It's just not going to be given to him. And I think, I read today that Broderick Jones had some first team reps, but initially, right now, Dan Moore Jr. is getting those snaps, and there was one clip out there where Highsmith beat him, but they're not wearing pads yet. But it was a speed rush, and even if they had pads on, I think Highsmith would have got to the quarterback there. Of course, they're not sacking the quarterbacks in training camp, but yeah, I don't know. It should be interesting to see how that plays out. The whole left tackle. There's not really a lot of training camp battles. Like, I mean, I guess left tackle, cornerback to see Patrick Pearson would be the one of the starters, but if Joey Porter Jr. or Levi Wallace, I guess, is the main battle there for the other cornerback spot.
And we now have Brandon Walker live and on location from Chicago. Brandon, good to see you.
Hey, man.
You got the vintage Sixers shirt on.
I think as a Washington guy, that's probably a little bit sacrilegious. Uh-oh, he froze. He froze. Hotel Wi-Fi strikes again, guys. Oh,
yeah,
man.
Wi-Fi, even at my house, sometimes the Wi-Fi is rough. But yeah. Speaking of, we want to talk about the Highsmith deal. This was actually happened last week, but he talked to the media earlier this week. What are your thoughts on Highsmith getting the bag, so to say?
I mean, good on the Steelers. Good on the Steelers for getting him that deal as early as possible, because I know that there was a lot of people that said that you're the running mate with TJ Watt, but he was doing pretty well for a guy that was out without Watt for the most part with last season, and he still would have been in and around the same production even with Watt in the lineup. So you're just hoping that he's a co-star, and he's not up in the top 10 of outside linebacker money, so you'll take it.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy story just how he was a walk-on at Charlotte, and he's worked his way in the NFL, and through this is going to be his fourth year, but get that $70 million, a 5-year $70 million deal is pretty crazy. I thought it was a good deal. Like, I mean, I know last week people were talking about how the Steelers spent too much on defense and stuff, but the offense is just young right now. It's at that stage where they have a young quarterback, so. If George Pickens develops, and same as Kenny Pickett, they'll get their deals sooner rather than later, and or eventually, I should say, and it'll even out the whole offensive defense and how it's spent.
Yeah, you're right. Plus, Cam Hayward's not going to play that much longer. You got Patrick Peterson. I don't know how much he's making, but he's not going to be playing that long here. And then structure TJ Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick's deals, if you got to pay Penny Pickett his money, as I sip on this blueberry pomegranate brisk tea.
Oh wow, man! How is it there in Chicago? Are you in the city or the outside? Are you in the city or the outside areas?
Outside city.
Oh, okay.
Slightly out. What we got? Talking about.
I think the hotel Wi-Fi is breaking up.
Yeah, man, that's always tough. I'm trying to give him as much space as possible because I know that he's trying to hang in there with it, and it's tough to do. Yeah, I mean, it's good to see that he's out there with in Chicago, of course, enjoying a little bit of time off before we all start running around, as we all will. Hopefully, there's some plans in the interim for all of us here in Pittsburgh, but we'll get to that later. What else to talk about with this? I mean, defensively, when you take a look at it, Joey Porter Jr., he got his rookie deal in, so he's officially all locked in for the next few years as a Steeler. I think the one thing that you're looking for out of him is stability early, because this is probably the most anticipated corner signing as a rookie the Steelers have had in quite some time.
Yeah, definitely. And he got a pretty good deal there. I think 70% of his deal got guaranteed. But yeah, I'm just reading here a report by Mike DeFabo from The Athletic. He said Joey Porter Jr. was chirping at Pickens at the end of practice. I got something for you. I thought that was pretty interesting because I said like back in April, I was like, I can't wait to see a training camp battle between George Pickens, Joey Porter Jr. Two young guys going at it. So I thought that was interesting. I tweeted, I was like, iron sharpens iron. The famous Tomlin saying or the quote. But yeah, Nick Farbaugh from Steelers Now said that this has been another solid day for Joey Porter Jr. Thus far, his length is a serious factor. And I posted a photo of Joey Porter, a picture of him, and showing his wingspan, which is pretty crazy. All you have to do is Google Joey Porter Jr. arms, and it's like one of the first photos that comes out. It's pretty crazy. I think it's like 34-inch arms or something like that.
Long and lanky corners, and that's exactly what you need. And I'm glad that early on he's showing that dog that was pretty much certified with his father out there, because that's exactly what you need. That's where you want to see dogs in the training camp stages of the year. So that's exactly what I wanted to see out of him. I'm glad to see that early on.
Yeah, you know how Joey Porter, or how George Pickens is. Remember the famous thing at Georgia. You don't want to see that at training camp, but he's a fiery guy and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see them compete with each other throughout camp.
Everybody was trying to say that he's crazy for wearing a hoodie. I'm like, he's got a sleeveless hoodie on. I mean, that's a Bill Belichick special. I'm fine with that. I mean, as long as he's not full on hoodie. I did see a few people around Pittsburgh with hoodies on in the past few days, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
it's way too
hot. Yeah, but Najee Harris, the running back discussion. I know Brandon probably, it's been a big topic across the league and stuff. So Brandon, what are your thoughts on the running backs overall, and what Najee Harris had to say about how the running backs are, they have no security, and they're being devalued.
He's right, and if I were the Steelers, I'd watch out. If Najee stays healthy and balls out this year, I would hold out after this year.
Yeah, he'll have to have a big season. I know some bet MGM, they think he's the most bets for winning the rushing title, which is pretty great. He's like the 9th best odds, I think, though. But yeah, 18 to 1, I think it is. But I guess they're doing that because the Steelers are committed to the run, and they did, or they're saying they are, or going to be, and that they bolster the offensive line. But yeah, I don't know. You think like, say he gets like maybe what kind of numbers do you think he needs to get where you could potentially see a holdout? Because his his 5th year his 5th year thing's coming up.
It'll be 1,700 yards, about 12 to 15 touchdowns.
Oh yeah, that's all pros type of season right there.
Yeah, you gotta have all. You can't get injured. You have to ball out. Straight up, you can't, because I know Najee had that foot the first half of last year, but other than that, he's been healthy the entire time. So if he stays healthy, gets that 8 yards, boom, hold out now. That's when your time when you use your leverage.
Yeah, and the entire saga with the running back story. And by the way, Brandon, 1,700 rushing.
Yes, rushing.
Yeah. I'm gonna probably put him. I'm probably gonna say that he'll get slightly less than that rushing wise. I think it's 1,500. I think the Steelers will actively try to get Jalen Samuels a little bit more involved with this team, but I also expect him to still be a threat as a receiver, and I think that's really going to be what makes that All-Pro designation kind of a little bit Le'Veon Bellish. I think that maybe he gets 1,500 rushing and about 600 receiving.
Yeah, Brandon, the numbers you said, I just looked up Josh Jacobs, who led the league in rushing last year. He had 340 attempts, 1,653 yards he had, and 12 touchdowns, averaged 4.9 yards per carry. So that's the type of season that you're looking for, Najee.
Yeah.
Which could happen. I mean, like Josh Jacobs, I think the season before he only had 872 yards rushing on 217 attempts, averaged 4.0 yards per carry and 9 touchdowns. So, I mean, Najee could make that leap if everything goes right. And this is the best offensive line that he's played behind so far in his career by far.
Sure. Oh, yeah, but what were you guys talking about before I came in, though, and while I was gone?
Oh, we were talking about Pickett, right? Pickett.
So
no,
what do you?
No, you remember it probably more than I do.
We were talking about Pickett at training camp, and we said he had a couple, some deep throws the last 2 days. But we said, it's the early portion of training camp. They haven't put pads on yet. And, we talked about the weather because 3 Steelers, they left practice because of heat-related issues. So we're just talking about how hot it is right now. And Tomlin loves the weather, loves the conditions, loves the adversity.
So what do you think his stat line is going to be this year?
Well, that's a good question because I read Bleacher's Report had it at 22. They had I think the betting odds are like 17 or something like that. And I know I tweeted a couple weeks ago, I think 25, which might be a little bit too much, but that's what Trevor Lawrence stat line was. And that's what a lot of people think what Pickett could have is that type of leap. Yeah, looking at Trevor Lawrence stats, he completed 66.3 of his passes for 4,113 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. So imagine if Pickett has that type of stat line.
He ain't getting 4,100. That is not happening. But
25 touchdowns.
25. That Canada's dry offense, man. I can't. No.
I think 17's good because he had 7-9, and he didn't play all the games.
I'll meet in the middle. I'll say 22 touchdowns and 9 interceptions on about 3,400 yards.
I think that would have been a fine stat line with a 16 game season, but a 17, I think you gotta bump that up to at least a shade under 4,000 for me to be comfortable with him.
But they're not gonna. They're gonna try to run the ball.
Yeah,
they're gonna be running the ball a lot. They're gonna be because it's gonna be like the same as last year. The Steelers are gonna be playing within the margin because I think they, although they are a better team than the more talented team than last year, I still think, and we talked about this, Chris, they are still about a year, one draft away and another free agency cycle from really becoming a contender again. I think they can win a playoff game, but we'll just get to that. You want to just get to what their record is going to be right now, or you just want to just say before preseason?
We'll see if
let's give it a little bit of time. I mean, the first preseason game is August 11th.
Yeah, but
so we got to figure out what's going on.
My initial thoughts are kind of with yours, Brand. I think I kind of see them as like a 9-8. Maybe they'll get one more win, maybe 10-7. But it's such a tough conference. I don't, like anything, health plays an important part. But like that AFC North is tough. I mean, like Pickett, like he's still, like as far as the quarterbacks, you got Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and who knows, Deshaun Watson is kind of, I don't know, but if he gets back to his former self, I guess. I mean, the Browns are going to be a threat too if he could get going, I think. But I don't know. That's so unpredictable with how everything. But they have some pieces though in Cleveland.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are kind of into what Deshaun Watson has been saying, but this is still a team that's plenty good enough to at least compete for the AFC North. I'm not going to be like most people and give them the crown just yet. I think that they can compete for a title. Them winning that division is going to have to be something that I got to see first.
Yeah, they got to earn that distinction. But Baltimore depends on if Lamar Jackson can stay healthy.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
That if he can stay healthy, I think they might win that division because they got the weapons now. Best weapons. And whew, they need – and Cincinnati needs to figure out that Joe Burrow situation quick. And Joe Burrow should not touch the field again until that contract is resolved. Because there has the baseline for with Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert has not accomplished nearly enough to warrant that. I mean, more than Burrow. So my question is, going back to Pickett, what do you think he may be worth by 2025?
Wow, that's a long time in football.
For the 25, I know, but
I'm just trying to see what he does this year to see if he can make that.
Yeah, man. I mean, right now you're just hoping. I think the best case scenario is like a hometown discount on steroids right now. But yeah,
I'm looking at,
that's much too early.
like, Trevor Lawrence had 12 touchdowns to 17 interceptions in 2021, 3,641 yards passing. So, Pickett, he had 7 to 9 touchdown interception ratio last, but also Lawrence, he's a better prospect coming out, and he had Doug Peterson too. Matt Canada, I think he's the wild card here. Can he develop a efficient passing game? That remains to be seen. He has some good run formations, like people to get on the jet sweep, but it does actually do some good things when it's run properly or run at the right time, I guess I should say. But yeah, I just don't know about if he could develop his, like, all the experts in the football analytic or the football X and O's, they say his passing game is really simple and stuff, and it doesn't. It has to have more variety in its routes. Like I think George Pickens led go routes last year, like, by a wide margin, and so they need to get him in a more diverse route tree.
I think that's one thing that could be done with this team, because I look at Allen Robinson as someone that could probably help with that route tree situation.
yeah.
I mean, my theory with the Steelers is that a lot of this all just kind of spans back to guys like AB and even Martavis Bryant. I mean, they've always had wide receivers that just kind of had a sixth sense and just knew what to do with routes in those situations and were elusive. And I think the Steelers are trying to get guys like that back. But even with it, it took a bit of time for AB to officially be AB. So I think you're hoping to see a jump with route trees for not only George Pickens but Deontay Johnson as well.
I think he's a better route runner. It's just like, number one, if he catches it. Number two, what he's going to do if he catches it. That's the top problem. That's not his problem. Is not the route running.
The yak yardage after it and stuff.
Yeah, it's the
routes after the catch. Maybe that's one thing with them. I mean, all he has to do, really, the one thing is, if he had Juju's mentality in terms of catching the ball and just trying to get up the field, he'd be a much better wide receiver than what a lot of Steelers Nation thinks of him.
You already know what I told you. Yeah, after that Buffalo game, yeah, I was pretty rough on him, but that's what you got Robinson for. So, but what do you think is gonna? Yeah, but speaking of this, what do you think is the biggest question mark, that the one position that will derail this season?
I think their linebackers probably their weakest right now. They don't really, Landon Roberts, Cole Holcomb, who from Washington, but they don't really, have a standout player. I would say, no disrespect to any of those players. I think linebackers are worried. I'm trying to think what cornerback. They're young with the Joey Porter Jr. and Corey Trice, but they have Patrick Peterson, vet there. But I don't know. What would you say? That's a good. I would say linebacker though. That's the position that I'm most worried about.
I would say the other. I would say this. The one person I think is going to have a breakout season is Mark Robinson.
Okay, so linebacker. Like you think he's gonna start over Cole Holcomb or the Landon Roberts?
Yeah,
You think so?
I'm telling you. I was clamoring for him to start in the middle of last season, but politics, gotta squeeze. Politics happen, and you know how that goes. Until it was clear that, hey, give him a shot, show some dog, make plays. I know he got to work on some things in coverage, but don't they all? But I think he could be a very solid starter. He could be part of the solution. But my thing is, I don't know about Keanu Neal or
Fitzpatrick.
I like that fit Minka and Terrell Edmonds. They complement each other perfectly.
Yeah, that's a good point. Safety. Oh yeah, corner. Yeah, I'm safety.
Too.
I like their front, their defensive line and their outside linebackers. They got the duo with T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith. Getting paid big amount of money. Offense is the best offensive line they've had in a number of years. I like the additions they got at receiver. So this roster is it's built up nice. It's just it's like we mentioned, Brandon. It's 1 year away where I think they could maybe make a deep playoff run.
Right, because it's
I'm gonna
go ahead.
I'm gonna say that you guys kind of stole the thunder with me. I'm gonna say the roundup players, the players that are expected to make plays after the offense makes a catch or at least has a run potentially. So roundup guys, the inside linebackers in the 3-4, and the strong safety, and also nickel corner. That's another thing. But those things all together, which are basically expected to be guys that you have for hats in the run game or at least passing in intermediate areas. Those are my worries for this team. But globally, it's execution. I mean, offensive execution under Canada, and defensively, it's how these guys play in important positions in the Steelers' scheme that are getting replaced because of so much turnover.
Yeah, because they turn over the inside linebacker room, the cornerback room, and basically that's other than that, basically the defensive line too.
Tyler, that's a good point with the slot cornerback because I think right now they're working in some different guys. They even have the idea of maybe moving Patrick Peterson inside, but Chandon Sullivan is the guy they signed around draft time, and a couple weeks after that, in May, they released Arthur Millette, and just a couple days ago, Arthur Millette signed with the Ravens, which is kind of interesting. He was a feisty slot cornerback. He was a good run blitzer and everything, but wasn't the best in coverage. He was kind of like Mike Hilton, but what would you say, not like a diet version of Mike Hilton, I guess. Not as good, but he was a solid player. But slot cornerback, the Steelers for Mike Hilton, the way he played that position was like Keith Butler always used him on those blitz and stuff, and helped out in run support. So yeah, that's another position that'll be interesting to see how it plays out in training camp.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be figured out with the Steelers in terms of that defense that at least makes me comfortable sitting there watching from 30,000 feet, I guess. But yeah,
I have a question for you guys. Other than maybe Kenny Pickett, who do you think will break out this year?
I already told you, Mark Robinson. I'm telling you.
Okay, you're high.
I'm a big Mark. I'm like he should have been starting over. We're not gonna do it. I'm not gonna. He should have been starting over number 55, the previous number 55 last year, and I'll keep it at that.
Who do you got, Ty?
I'm I'm going to put myself on the campaign trail. I'm going to say that Joey Porter Jr. makes strong inroads towards Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Okay. Yeah, I saw earlier this week CBS Sports, they had him on first team all rookie at cornerback with Gonzalez from the Patriots. But what do you think? What do you say, Fryermuth? Do you think that's a breakout type of player? You think? Because
Yeah.
I think he makes a leap here for like pro ball, like because he hasn't.
I'm thinking this is the year he could be
yeah.
He could make an all pro.
Hopefully they get the middle of the field situated and Pickett starts, targeting there some passes to Fryermuth there, and he's going to be in the slot more too because the Darnell Washington.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna go with your guy there, Penn State Pat.
I didn't want to pick a Penn State player, but but oh gosh. So that's why I didn't pick one of them. I didn't want to hear the bias. So that's why I went with Robinson. But
yeah, you got a lot of Penn State representation for the Penn State beat writer here on the Renegade Blitz. You got Allen Robinson, you got Fryermuth, you got Joey Porter Jr. I mean, you'd think that the guy you wouldn't think that the two guys that are more identified as Pitt guys would give the Penn State guys some headway in this team.
Yeah. So I want to know, speaking of, who do you think is going to get the green dot?
That's a good question.
I think it's going to have to be Minka this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think safeties are good to have the green dot? Do they have good safeties wear the green dots?
I don't know. I always thought it was a linebacker, but I mean, some defenses.
It might be Minka, but I don't know if that's good.
He's too far away. He's expected to play center field, and the Steelers love to play one high about as much as any other team in the league.
Right.
I mean, I think that's the question, at least with especially with linebacker. I mean, if you want to be real, if it's traditionally a linebacker, I'd probably say Highsmith.
Highsmith, outside linebacker.
It would be it. I think it has to be unconventional because I just don't know these guys right now. Like I want to see how the linebackers play against Tampa. It's not Tom Brady's Tampa Bay, but it's still Tampa Bay regardless.
Yeah, they're still NFL team, but goodness, like, whew, it's going to be tough. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it might have to be. You see, if Edmonds was still here, I would have picked him. I would have put it on him. But he's not. So that is a good question. That is something that nobody asked. I was like,
no, I haven't seen anyone ask about the green dot yet. But trying to think of any other I think everybody knows where the pressure's at. I think Matt Canada, Kenny Pickett, I think that's been well documented. The offense, they can't be scoring 19 points per game like they did last year, or it was 18, I think. Something like that. They can't be scoring 10, 13, 16 points this year. They gotta enter the 21st century, as you like to say, Brand.
You know what? They have to figure out the mentality to get this physical way to get out of this quagmire of mediocrity. And that, I will tell you what their point differential is from the last 4 years. -10. And that includes the 11-0 start.
Oh yeah, we remember that was our first year on the podcast.
Yeah, that was some great times, but
they fell off a cliff at the
end. Yeah, that is one thing you could say, that this team has to be at least positive with point differential, hopefully coming up in the future. And I like to believe they made some strong strides last year. They became more of a ball control offense, and that's the start of my confidence in the offense coming through there. Hopefully Matt Canada is no longer signing toilet seats after that, because I think that was an omen. Someone low key did the math on that one. It was like wearing a sell the team shirt right next to Bob Nutting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
let's wrap this up with something that I think that's been, at least you probably have seen this a little bit on your Twitter feeds or X feeds or whatever the hell feed it is now. Um, um, that sounds so wrong. Have you guys been seeing these tweets from Eli Rogers coming in through training camp the first few days, talking about like maybe he was given a wrong deal by, I guess he was passed up for Ryan Switzer back
Yep.
in the late Killer Bees era.
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah, he was balling a little bit. He stepped up when AB got like during certain times.
Yeah, a Twitter a fan on Twitter just he claimed that Switzer got the spot over Rogers because he was a part of Ben's Bible study. So and Rogers he basically said he has some stories about how he was, butt kissing Ben and stuff. Which so it was a really random thing last night on Twitter. Like, I haven't really thought about Eli Rogers in a while. Like, he's a former player from 2019, but yeah, he thinks that Switzer, just did a lot of sucking up to other coaches and stuff, and was a part of Ben's Bible study, I guess, supposedly.
Doing pretty good in the XFL before the pandemic, and I think he had a cup of coffee in the USFL. So I'm shocked that no one else really gave him another chance.
Talking about Eli Rogers?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, it's the smart thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Even though
Switzer's got to do what he's got to do to make the team, man. It's joining Ben's Bible study.
Yeah, because he doesn't. Because that dude kind of sucks for one shit. Like, bro, like
he was a less than ideal returner in a lot of situations.
He was an okay receiver, but he absolutely stunk as a punt returner.
Yeah, basically, and not the exact words, but Rogers said that Switzer wasn't messing with him on the field in no shape or form.
I didn't see that. I'm guessing the messing was.
Yeah, it was another word.
Oh god!
It was some pretty random beef on Twitter last night. But
miscellaneous things. You have a prediction. This is a very serious question. Who? Yeah, the green dot. But who is going to be your walk in the trap, take over your trap guy?
Marcus Allen had a tryout with the Eagles earlier this weekend. So
I know.
Let me try to think. I got to think.
You got to keep an eye on Marcus Allen for us, Chris.
No, out near. Who's going to replace him?
Probably. You want to know something? Who's the new dime backer for the Steelers, or maybe Joey Porter?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe Joey Porter Jr. Maybe. That's a good question, though. I didn't even think about that, man.
That's that question. It's either that or
the Steelers have a lot. They have a lot of serious players on their team. I'm trying to think right now. I'm not coming up with a lot. Like they're the typical lunch pail blue collars. Like they're not gonna do that type of hype up and everything.
Yeah, this feels like your father's Steelers team.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, but it's still very young, and everybody's trying to figure out their roles right now.
Well, you have to have that role. Every team has it now. And plus, with the Steelers, you have to have that because the fans really do walk in your trap and take over your trap.
But Brent, you know what I was thinking late last night? I was just thinking to myself. I was thinking, I hope defenses this year don't run to the end zone after they get a turnover.
I think that's still going to happen, and you're going to have to deal with that for a long time. But we'll wrap it up.
You mentioned this in the press box, right?
Yes. was like, yo.
We gotta get press box musings from Brandon
And
Walker.
a general manager of the Raiders, right? Said
Yes.
something. Yeah.
And then they threw it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they on the next play, and this was the Raiders, and this was after the Raiders did it. It wasn't after the Steelers were doing it. It was after the Raiders. It was like, I hate this. I hate it. And after they made the interception, and then
Oh my God.
2 plays later, Carr threw, I think, to Mollett, and then they did the thing. I was like, and plus, be proud of me. I went through this whole podcast without saying not one bad word. I didn't even say the A word.
Yeah, you almost got caught up towards the end, but regardless, we'll let it slide because connection issues. But a quick housekeeping for it for this year. At least when it comes to us, like when it's just us, we're going to be live. But for any guests that we have on this year, we have decided to go back to just recording that and then eventually uploading that. We want to try to open up more situations in which we have a guest on the Renegade Blitz this year, because for the first time last year in some weeks, we did not. So we're hoping to go 17 for 17 this year in terms of guests like we have in previous years. So be on the lookout for that. But regardless, that's all for us here. Chris Ward, Brandon Walker, I'm Ty Polk. You have been listening to the Renegade Blitz.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at @RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. And subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. The Renegade Blitz podcast is available on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you can listen